Yeah.
Okay, I think we're ready. 10 coming in.
Once we get everybody in and get things going, could we have somebody take a screenshot or two? Perfect.
Sure.
Hi, all. Welcome. It's 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern. I know we still have people logging in, coming in. Thank you for joining us. My name is Marge Rose. I'm the chair for the NBAA Local and Regional Groups Committee. And to kick us off, I'm going to have Jenny Showalter give us a few housekeeping items and thank the Central Florida Business Aviation Association for hosting the platform here, our Zoom call today, and also the reservation system. We appreciate that. Jenny, just give us an update.
Thanks, Marge. Absolutely. It's CFBA's pleasure to assist. Just want to let everybody know as you're coming in, your video is off. You can either on or turn it off. That is completely up to you. Microphones are muted as well as you come in, and we're asking that everybody keep their audio muted. If you're a speaker, you can unmute and mute when it's your turn to speak. You'll have that control. But if you have questions, we want to make sure that we're utilizing the chat feature. All questions will be at the end of the event. We've got some time set aside for that. But if you could put those in the chat feature, and then we'll also be posting links of things that we're discussing in the chat feature as well. So make sure you have that up. And I think that's about it. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great event, and I'll toss it back to Marge. Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm sorry, I did forget one. If you want, we are going to be putting up a PowerPoint here shortly. So if you want to click the speaker feature on your view to see the speaker view, that'll make sure that whoever is speaking at that time is easily accessible and highlighted on your screen. So thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate that. She's a Zoom aficionado, so she knows all about that. Again, welcome you guys to this. I think it's a first ever town hall for the Local and Regional Groups Committee. You know, in these unprecedented times, we've done a lot of firsts, I think, in the past year to 2 years. But as I mentioned before, I'm the chair of this Local and Regional Groups Committee, and I came here via North Texas Business Aviation Association. Back in 2008, we founded that. It has about 300 members now. Currently I'm acting as an advisor to the board, but enjoy being active in the North Texas Business Aviation Association here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My real job is a marketing and communications consultant for business aviation that I launched 15 years ago called Market Lift. Before we get started on the 4 different topics that we're going to just cover today, I did also want to give a short mention to all the other committee members. You know, this is all volunteer work. I appreciate all their help. We couldn't do things like this if it wasn't for the whole team. So Kyle Isier, I appreciate you. You're part of the CFBAA as well. I know you're on the call. You're with Apex Executive Jet. Jessica Belcher, you'll hear from her later. Thank you for being a part of the group. You are with Exclusive Aircraft Sales as your real job, and you're executive secretary for our group and a member of the Minnesota Business Aviation Association. Jenny, as we mentioned before, is with the CFBAA. Thank you, Jenny. And she works for Aviation Personnel International. Roger Salo is from Michigan. He works with the Michigan Business Aviation Association. He's on our committee. Debbie Carpenter is also on our committee out of the Southern California Business Aviation Group. Jason Bonham from Eastern Kentucky University. He's actually going to be stepping down from our committee, but he's with the Kentucky Business Aviation Association. Nora Lenardic, sorry to mess up your name there, Nora. I know you're on. She's with the Executive Jet Management and works with the, actually leads as a president of the Chicago Area Business Aviation Association. Tim Casalter is with the Minnesota Business Aviation Association. And then there's Chris Sally from FBO Partners. He's with the South Florida Business Aviation Association. And we also have Christina Jacobs with ACC Aviation Group, and she's from the Houston area. So we appreciate all you guys. It takes a village, as you can hear. There's several of us on the committee, but we all pitch in when we need to. So anyway, so we thought this was a good time to, before everybody launches into live events and getting their local groups back online. We've all missed it. I know I have. The NBAA is going to do their first in-person event in many, many months next week, actually, in a hangar meet and greet. So we're excited about that. But we just all, as a group, thought it would be good timing to kind of, update everyone on where things are, maybe give you a few ideas, tips, and takeaways to help kick off the getting back to the new normal. So we'll get started here. The first thing that we want to do is welcome Scott O'Brien. He's from NBAA. He's our government affairs and senior director, and he's been with NBAA for 14 years. He's going to give us a little update, legislative update, and infrastructure bill introduction. Obviously, we all know the politics has changed quite a bit since the November election. So I'm sure he's staying very, very busy. So Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Marge. It's great to see everyone and such good participation. So thank you everyone for joining. So yeah, it has definitely been a very busy and dynamic time at NBAA since we started working through the pandemic. I'm just going back in history a little bit. I mean, it seemed like many years ago, but I guess it was only a little over a year ago when we started really working on the CARES Act and relief for our industry. And our big focus there was to make sure that relief that airlines were getting would also be applicable to especially our commercial Part 135 operators. And we were really successful through the CARES Act in making certain that the air carrier payroll support program, it applied to basically any commercial operator. So as I'm sure you've seen, hundreds really of Part 135 operators received relief through that program. And, while things have picked up now, there, of course, were a number of really challenging months when things were so locked down. And this CARES Act relief allowed the 135 community to really retain a lot of its workforce, not have to have huge layoffs for the most part. So we view that as an important success. And in addition to that legislative work, we did a lot of work with the Treasury Department on making the program workable for smaller operators, in that the airlines were required to provide a lot of collateral and debt to the government to secure these loans and grants, whereas for smaller operators, they were not required to do that. So that was a really important victory. And, moving past that, we've been trying to think of proactive things we can do while keeping a focus on relief, but what sort of the future of our industry is going to look like. And a big focus of that recently has been advanced air mobility. So, while most of us are not in advanced air mobility right now, or just in traditional kind of business aviation, of course, if you read the news or see anything about our industry, there's a lot of excitement and talk about electrification and what that means for business aviation. And, companies like Joby and Whisk, all these different entities that have a lot of venture capital funding are really getting into our industry. And we, NBAA, wanted to be a part of that. Gamma's done a lot of great work with those companies on the certification side, but we wanted to be involved on the operations side. So we have stood up this Advanced Air Mobility AAM roundtable recently with the top 8 or so companies in this space. And we've been doing a lot of really exciting work with them through the airport office at FAA in terms of what a standard for a vertiport would look like and how that's different from a heliport. And then what I've been working on a lot, and Marge mentioned the infrastructure bill, is what type of infrastructure funding will these entities need? We, of course, have the airport improvement program, but a lot of this vertiport infrastructure won't be on an airport. So we're in the early stages of working on Capitol Hill for a grant program that would just fund, provide some limited planning and construction funding to these AAM companies. And we feel that's really important to kind of broaden the focus of how aviation is funded from just airports and airspace and broaden it out into vertiports and this new technology that we see as, you know, an important part of business aviation's future. So we've been really busy on that. Just at a higher level in terms of infrastructure. I mean, I'm sure people have seen reported that the Biden administration has some, you know, pretty big plans on infrastructure. There's a big debate in DC as to like how you define infrastructure. Is it just roads and bridges, or is it housing and social equity and different things? The Biden administration, I think, is taking a much broader view of infrastructure, which I think is challenging for Republicans and a big shift from how it's been funded. So there's a pretty big gap between where the Democrats are and where the Republicans are and what they want to do with this infrastructure plan going forward. The Republicans just today kind of have their own proposal, which the Democrats have already rejected. So I think it's going to basically come down to what the Biden administration wants to do in terms of, do they want to move this through reconciliation where they, you know, don't need the 60 votes in the Senate, which is what they did for the most recent relief bill, or do they want to try to get to some sort of compromise with the Republicans and move forward in a more bipartisan way? I mean, I think everybody hopes they could move forward in a bipartisan way, but just my own personal view is ultimately we'll see some sort of infrastructure package go through this reconciliation process, which means that it will probably reflect more closely what the Biden-Harris team wants and less closely what the Republicans want. But we'll see how that all goes. I think that should play out pretty soon in the next month or so. We're obviously working on that AAM piece I talked about. We're also working on some legislation related to the workforce and public service campaigns to promote the aviation workforce, which could be considered as part of that infrastructure bill. Then the third item, which actually is probably the most important of all the items I mentioned, is we're really pushing hard on sustainable aviation fuel, especially with the Democrats in control. Regardless of where you are in politics, there's a huge amount of focus on climate change and, you know, making our industry as sustainable as possible. And to do that, we have to really scale up how much sustainable aviation fuel our community is using. And I think most of you are probably familiar with SAF. It's basically like a drop-in biofuel that's blended with conventional jet fuel, and it can reduce our carbon emissions by up to 80%. So to meet the goals we've all set for either like the airlines that they want to be carbon neutral, we've talked about a reduction, there has to just be the scale up of SAF. And what we're talking about is a tax credit that would incentivize the producers to get into this SAF business more. So they could get $1.50 to $2 per gallon tax credit that would go to the fuel producer. And that would incentivize more investment in production, get some of the large biofuel producers into this business. And we see the infrastructure proposal, which will have a tax component, as a potential path forward. So there's a really broad coalition. It's cool because Airlines for America, Delta, United, we're all working together on this. And we hope that we'll be able to get this across the finish line and get this SAF tax credit done, which will then be really important for our industry, meeting its sustainability goals. And there's a ton going on in NBAA in the SAF space, from the tax credit to a kind of like trading program, offset program. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and we really see it as a priority going forward. So we're working hard on that. The last thing I'll cover is there's been really recently, and I don't know if any of you are involved in transactions, there's been more and more of a focus. It's come up over the last few years of non-citizen trusts, which is a way a lot of our members own aircraft that cannot meet the FAA citizenship definition, which is really strict. So you'd be surprised, even some like publicly traded companies, because they have a non-US CEO, they cannot register on the FAA registry without using one of these trusts. And there was some unfortunate litigation about a trust provider in Oklahoma City that's actually resulted in this person being in jail. And it's a very messy issue. But the bottom line is it kind of paints an unfortunate picture of these trusts, which we really need for a lot of transactions to get done. So we've been working with a broad group of lessors and financing companies to try to make sure we're educating folks on Capitol Hill about these non-citizen trust issues, because it does come up frequently and something we have to be really proactive on. So that's going. And then the last thing I'll mention that just kind of came out, this came out last year. You guys may have seen that this Senator Lee from Utah has introduced legislation about flight sharing, and it would basically create a new kind of category under Part 91 where private pilots could accept compensation for flights through some sort of like online system where people that wanted to fly were matched with pilots. And as you can imagine, the 135 community has a ton of concerns with this, as do we, about, you know, what it means for safety and is this really a smart road to go down. So we're just in the early stages of working with AOPA and our other partners on just how we're going to respond to that. I don't think the bill really has like a legislative vehicle to move right now, but it is something we're hearing a lot about from our members. So we're definitely on it and keeping close track of that issue. But I guess before I go on, are there any questions? Let me just look in the chat. Brad asked who's the best contact to speak with on vertiports. That would be me. I've done a lot of work on that, so happy to talk with anyone about that. It's a pretty interesting issue. I never thought I would be working on that exactly, but it's cool to learn something new for sure.
Well, thanks, Scott.
Sure.
I know from my perspective, as a former leader of local regional groups, it was always a challenge to figure out how to take that first step, connecting with a local government official or someone in legislative that we, you know, that was important for us to get to know. Do you have any tips or advice on that?
So that's actually a great question. And Sierra, who you guys know, is on also, and I've worked with her about a bunch on this with our YoPros, and it's gone really well. We've unfortunately just had a lot of other stuff going on, so we haven't been able to focus it as much as we wanted, but we were working with our YoPro advocacy group and actually setting up meetings, because everything's virtual now, of course, setting up meetings with the staff person in the congressman's, we were working on the House side, the congressman's office that handled aviation, and just doing kind of like an introductory call with them, talking about, you know, what the company did, if there was an airport in the district, sort of the connection there. And it might seem overwhelming to set up, but actually one like kind of benefit of the world we're in is these people just are very open to doing virtual meetings. So I would totally suggest, I mean, especially if, you know, you're at a GA airport that has a large employment base, I would, and I'm happy to help anyone that needs help. I would totally suggest just emailing, and I can hook you up with the right contact information, emailing the person that does transportation issues and introducing yourself. I don't think there's ever anything wrong with doing that. And we also, of course, this isn't as personal, but Sierra's going to start working. So Sierra's joined government affairs recently, and she's going to start working a lot more on the General Aviation Caucus outreach, which is in the House. We have a really large group of members, House members, that are interested in GA and are in this caucus, which is led by Sam Graves from Missouri and Mark Veazey from Texas. And Sierra's going to start doing some more outreach there to expand the caucus. So I think as part of that, she can work with the regional groups to sort of facilitate some of these meetings I'm talking about. But I think now is a great time to be doing this kind of stuff, because you can do it so easily and people are totally open to doing meetings by Zoom, and then just from anywhere and can connect with these people. So I was really happy how it went when I did it with a few of Sierra's YoPro colleagues.
Great. Good advice. Good idea. Well, wonderful. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it very much. We all do. And looking forward to maybe seeing you in person this fall at BASE. That would be great.
No, we're excited. We're really excited about BASE. I'm sure Steve has told you about that, but you know, it's exciting to be back and to be in the new facility in Las Vegas. So I think it'll be great.
Yeah, I do too. Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, well, our next topic is Small Flight Department Committee. There is a Small Flight Department Committee, if you did not know, and David Keys is going to tell us a lot more about that. He's the chief pilot for Peace River Citrus Products and also the president of Central Florida Business Aviation Association. He has a bachelor's degree from Embry Aeronautical University. And you might want to wonder why we connected here, but Kyle and I talked to David a few weeks back, and we both kind of had an aha moment saying, this could really be beneficial to local regional groups to know more about small flight operators and how we could invite them into our local and regional groups and get them active. So David,
Excellent.
Turn it over to you.
Can you make sure you can hear me good? Is it all right?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to be here, and I've done something to my Zoom so I can either look at the slides or look at you all. So I'll look at the slides. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm also the chairman of the Small Flight Department Committee for NBAA. So I wear many hats in that regard. So it's a pleasure to talk to you all. One of our challenges is reaching the small flight departments in our country and providing them with resources. The first slide here is an alarming statistic. We realized earlier this year and last year that small flight departments have the worst safety record in any part of the industry. And if you really think back to the accidents that you've heard about over the last 12 months, it's been small flight departments, runway excursions. And so we have been cooperating with the safety committee and some other committees to really try and figure out how to address this and reach into small flight departments to start raising the safety level. The real trick is you guys are the ground. You have them in your operation, and they may not be NBAA members, so it's a great opportunity to connect with them. And have these conversations and share some of the tools that we've been working on
David,
over the last year.
Could you define the small flight department? Like,
I just see where Mark defined that as we do define it for our purposes, 2 airplanes or less. If you have 3 or more, we consider you a larger department. Typically you'll have an administrative structure that goes with a larger department that we do not find with small flight departments. Over 80% of our operators for NBAA are small flight departments, which we would define as small flight departments. So it's a huge number. And so it's a matter of developing resources that are going to help us, because I am one, do our business better and safer. So we've really focused on our goals for this year, really looking back at the accident record and trying to figure out what tools we can put in place. So currently the domestic operating committee, in cooperation with us, we're working on a professionalism campaign that we're going to create tools and videos to really try and make pilots and technicians and dispatchers think about what it means to operate professionally as a professional business aviation person. So we hope to have all that rolled out by October, and you'll see, I hope, a really vibrant campaign on professionalism within our industry, because we track back a lot of the decisions in these accidents are just non-professional decisions, which brings us to the safety for small operators. And so one of the tools we're working on to put into people's hands for small operators is a step-by-step safety roadmap, because typically a small department, ours, 2 pilots, that's it, 1 airplane. And they say, okay, we want to implement a safety management system. And you talk to the safety management professionals, and they say, well, here, go do ISBEO, or go do back, or go do something. And you start looking at it and you go, well, I just don't have the time or the resources to do that. So we want to really offer small operators, both in and out of NBAA, is a roadmap that says, here are some small steps to take. And if you start these steps, it's going to make your operation safer. And we hope it's going to help our whole industry. If you've been involved in small aviation, you know that our insurance rates are going up because of the high accident incident rates. So anything we can do to bring that down is going to help us financially. We just rolled out this first quarter, and we'll continue on the next quarter, how to speak with your principal. Most small flight department managers are not trained communicators or business managers. We know how to fly airplanes and manage them. So we're providing tools through videos, and I'll talk about one of the tools we have already on effective ways to communicate with either the principal of your company or the C-suite management, whoever may be overseeing your flight department, and the best methods for doing that. So look for those tools. If any of your groups are interested, we have speakers that would be excellent for talking to your groups about it. And the last we hear a lot is budgeting tools. When we survey our small operators, almost every survey comes back. They want me to do a budget, and 6 months ago I got hired as a co-pilot, and now I'm running the department because the senior pilot got hired by an airline, or he went off to do something else. What do I do? So we've provided tools on our website, and we're creating even some more learning tools to budget. You can flip to the next one, Jenny. Excellent. For resources for the regional groups, if they're members of NBAA, we have created a small operating learning series. It's an online virtual series that has both written and videoed modules. So far, it talks about budgeting, safety, speaking to the principal. They can click into any of those modules anytime and listen to some of the experts. The modules have turned out, I think, very well done. And we're going to each quarter be adding to that learning module. Our hope is that we would fully implement where you could go through those modules, and it would be a good preparation for the CAM exam, not only running your department, but getting certification. Every year at base, we do a small operator symposium on the Monday before base. We'll be hopefully doing one this year in October. We bring small operators together, and we provide expert speakers and panelists to talk about the issues that we face. A lot of our issues this year will be safety and speaking to your principal. So look for that prior to base and be advertised, and we'd love to have them come and join us. We've produced a lot of topical white papers that are available to anyone. You'll see sometimes we get them in AIN or BCA, the NBAA magazine will steer people to them, and on our website. They're available to anyone. So it kind of sets the stage for some of the other learning tools that we have. We continue to do podcasts for both 21.5, if Dylan and Max, if any of your members have not been listening to those, I'll tell you that's an excellent podcast, and Dylan serves on the small flight department committee. We're regular guests on that, talking about topics. We also do podcasts for NBAA, and I think a recent one just got recorded on speaking to your principal. That's available to anyone. So feel free to share that with your memberships. And then if you're having a meeting and need a subject matter speaker, we have many experts within our committee, and those that we use to consult with us on any range of topics. But what you find is that small operators are hungry for tools, because we just don't have the resources to to assign an administrative person to develop these programs, or we have extra pilots. It's all done with 2 pilots, and a lot of times we contract services. So if you're looking for a subject matter expert, please feel free to let us know. And the last slide, I think, says yes. I referred to that statistic: 80% of operating companies are small flight departments. NBAA did a survey not too long ago and found that one of the top 5 benefits that our membership felt they were getting was the resources that we were providing for small operators. So we want to continue doing that. And it's such an important, I think, area of our industry. And really, if you look around your airport, you probably identify a lot more small operators than you do large operators, the 1 or 2 airplane. And it could be anything from a Cirrus to a Global 75. You know, the plane size doesn't make the difference. It's how many planes and how many people you have within your department. You guys are the front line. We not only do we try and put resources out, but we try and gain information back. So we really would be interested in developing some partnerships with the regional groups to have communication conversations with your membership, those especially the small flight departments, to say, what is it that you need? What are you dealing with? What are your struggles? And gather that information and feed it back to our committee so that we can then focus on creating resources or answers or topics that may address the issues. We think we know what's going on because most of our members on the committee are small operators, but we've been caught off guard a couple of times on some issues that we didn't really think were out there, and we'd love to address those. So those are kind of a big overview of who we are and what we do, and we're much excited about forming some partnerships to build the communication, both providing you with resources, but also getting information back. So if there's any other questions on that, we'd love to address it. If not, hopefully I met my time frame.
That's great, David. Good information. And I'm sure a lot of people are going, oh yeah, that's good. We need to connect. And one of the things we do for the audience, the committees on NBAA, we do try and work with each other, because instead of being in silos and not communicating. So I think this was a good marriage here, that we connected with David, and because I think we both have that passion for resources, and we all do this voluntarily. So anything that can help us move ahead and bring value to our membership, which I think a lot of these resources that you have here, David, would do that for our group. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I see Tim's comment about the St. Louis, and yes, that small operators tend not to want to join something because it means they would take away from their time and resources. But hopefully you can take what I shared and take it back to those and say, wait a minute, we're creating resources for you. Come and join our regional group, and we'll help guide that, and we'll put you in contact with some resources. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see if we get any more questions at the end of the entire presentation for you, David. But thanks for your help, and we'll be in touch with you soon, I'm sure. Okay, so next is Jessica. She's going to help us work through connecting with the future. We're still trying to connect with students, at least I hope we all are still, about their career choices and knowing about business aviation as a career choice. Obviously, the challenges of the pandemic have kept us from doing it in person. So she has some great input here for us. As I said before, she's sales and marketing and exclusive aircraft sales. She's our executive secretary for the committee, an active member at Minnesota Business Aviation Association, and I think several other associations she didn't put on here, like Women in Aviation and some others. And she was selected as the 40 under 40 NBAA in 2020 honoree. So thank you, Jessica, for helping us out. And I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction. I'm very excited to help with this discussion, and I hope the information we'll be sharing serves to inspire you to expand your student outreach. Think for a moment about your own careers, specifically your introductions to business aviation. Was there one person or circumstance that opened your eyes to the industry? If we went around the Zoom and asked for your stories, I imagine each attendee would have something unique to share. I like to think of the biz av industry as the best kept secret of the aviation world, and would like to help my fellow group leaders to share their opportunities with future aviators. In a pre-pandemic world, a main topic of discussion within the industry was workforce development. Major shortages were looming ahead of us. We were continually asking how we could go about bringing more people into the industry as we saw this need growing and the number of those entering the workforce dwindling. And for the private aviation industry, even as students work on their ratings, many of them set their sights directly on the airlines as their ideal career goal without even knowing about the biz av world as an option or knowing how to start on that path. Even with the ever-changing world we have today, we are still seeing these shortages in our future and should work to collaborate our efforts to showcase the various opportunities we have in the industry. Well, the question then shifts to, well, how can we do that, especially right now? During this time of pandemic, we can't safely invite a high school science class back into our flight departments for a tour or go into a university classroom dressed in uniform to give a presentation. The logistics just aren't there. We're leaning even more into technology to have this conversation about the industry. One way that we've used technology to connect with students is with virtual meetings or a tour. We're chatting today on Zoom, but there are, of course, numerous platforms available for a virtual meeting, each of them having their own features and benefits. Most of our computers have a webcam already installed, and if not, you can find great ones out on the market. Most of us also have and are familiar with our smartphones, whose camera and video qualities are continually being improved upon. These devices are great for creating a virtual tour, and there are many other gadgets and add-ons to help with that content creation. You can pre-record a video or series of interviews with your staff to combine and make available later, or you can have a live video session. Each of these will have benefits over the other. It would be up to you to kind of choose what might be best for your team. For example, recording your content ahead of time removes some of the difficulties in relying on a Wi-Fi connection and allows a retake for a goof, but you miss out on the interaction between your speakers and attendees for a live Q&A. Editing software and apps are great for collecting those clips into one video, and whether your content is a recording of a live tour or a collection of recordings, you can then load your finished products onto your website and social media platforms like Instagram, YouTube, or Vimeo to be watched later. For this session, we have video examples to reference, but we won't be playing them here for you for the sake of time. The links will be loaded into the chat for you to pull out for watching later. Thanks, of course, to our industry friends for seizing this opportunity and leading the charge to represent to students, as well as sharing them with us today. We'll start the video portion with Pedro Manzanero of BAE Systems, where he serves as captain and safety manager and represents the Greater Washington Business Aviation Association. This first video was developed for a career fair. It was shot from the cockpit of their aircraft, in the hangar, and in their office. In the clip, he shares a few points that are of interest to a future pilot, and he does that all in a succinct 3-minute video. Pedro is here on the Zoom with us today, and I would like to invite him to unmute and share a few notes on his project.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Yeah, so I was approached by actually my flight attendant, who I believe is on the Zoom as well, Alexis. She works with GWABA, and they had been approached to do a career fair, a virtual career fair for a local high school here in the Washington area. And, you know, they were just asking for a short video, 4-minute video explaining, you know, the kind of different things that went into being a pilot, a corporate pilot, you know, what kind of training, education, you know, salary requirements and stuff. I'm sure all the kids wanted to know that. But so what I did, we at the department went out and purchased a GoPro, like a Hero 8 GoPro. And the reasoning why we did that was actually, it was part of the safety program. Like we noticed that with the pandemic, we started doing these basically like proficiency flying. So we wanted to use the GoPro to kind of videotape ourselves flying and, you know, keep our standardization call outs and everything up and basically watch ourselves, you know, it's kind of like football tape, you know, watching the tape afterwards. So we had this camera and we went out and I took that and literally just with my hand shot a bunch of clips of me talking about, you know, the position and the type of flying we do and, you know, what education requirements. And you know, the backdrop it makes it really easy when you have an airplane in a nice airplane in a hangar. You can make it look pretty good. And then as far as like putting together all that video, all that footage, GoPro really does make it easy. They have this app which has just been updated quick. The newest update is actually a pretty big change. It doesn't even have to be GoPro footage anymore. It could be literal footage from any camera, iPhone. You can upload it to GoPro, like their web, their cloud essentially. And the cloud does all the hard, like editing for you. So I honestly edited most of this video on my iPhone on the GoPro app, on the Quick app. And from there, you can, mix music in, you can cut the scenes together. It's pretty intuitive if you've like just using the app. And if you're not really in tune with it, like if you have never done it before, there's tons of videos online, like on YouTube, showing how to do that. And there's also, honestly, like some of the footage that you upload, it does it for you. So like this video was I would call the other video that we did a time lapse of a flight, which was way more fun to shoot, obviously, because we're flying, and it was more fun to put together and easy because it's, you just, all you need is the music behind it, and the time lapse does all the work. The GoPro Quick app I would highly recommend that one. I mean, obviously there's tons of other ones, but the benefit here is that, you don't need this big computer with all this processing power to, process 4K video and all that, because the cloud, GoPro's cloud, does it for you. So I think that's kind of along the lines, Jessica, of where you wanted to kind of explain on how people could do this. I haven't heard any feedback from the students or anything, but the Guava members and everything, liked it. And I would definitely preface this. So it's like, it was shot probably within 45 minutes to an hour. Like I spent most of it, just doing takes of like trying to talk in front of a camera and just like redoing my, my introduction a bunch of times. So it's not my like best work. And if you literally, if you took a little more time, I think you could put together a really good product with like just a GoPro and their app. So anyway.
Well, that was fantastic, Pedro. Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
to download that app as soon as we're done here, for editing together some of my own videos and creation. So thank you for that. And the mention of the time lapse, I love a good time lapse.
Yeah.
And a great thing about having a time lapse video and things that are real life action, right? And telling and showing the story of what you're doing is great social content, is great to put out there, and it will inspire people to say, hey, that looks fun. I want to do that. So it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So thank you. And Pedro, if you're able to stick around for Q&A, if anyone might have more questions for you about the GoPro and some other things, if you're able to stick around, please do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're going to post, you are going to post both links, right? Oh yeah. Okay. I just saw.
Yes. Brittany has posted those things.
You guys are so quick. I like it.
Oh, well,
Very
thank you
good.
Thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you so much. Another video example we'll discuss is from Fargo Jet Center, and it's a tour in history of the FBO, which was shared with the UND Aerospace program. The URL will be posted here in the chat, and we do have Darren Hall of Fargo Jet here with us today, and would like to open the floor to him as well to share some notes on this video creation. Darren? Maybe he had to drop, I'm not sure. Well, if he isn't here, I do have a few notes to kind of share on his behalf for this video. It's posted on Vimeo, and it's a little longer tour, but it's really fantastic. What they did is they did a stationary person in an office on Zoom, doing much like we are with the slideshow with photo examples. And Darren was the mobile half of the tour to walk through various locations in their FBO to showcase this is what this really looks like. which is really cool because not everybody has seen an aircraft in a maintenance shop with it opened up and the cowling open and an interior pulled out for whatever inspections they might be in for. So it's really nice to be able to show that to students that might not see that on their own. And it's great to show some of the cool things that our partners and other folks are doing. I think I saw the link pop up. So be sure and grab that for yourself as well to watch later as you're able.
And Jessica, I think Darren may have audio now.
Yeah.
Oh, are you here?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, there you are. Hey, so I kind of paraphrased the notes I had on the video. So I apologize for jumping ahead. If there's anything that I missed or what you'd like to add, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Nope, that's good. I'm going to take my headset off because I'm hearing it from both my phone and the Zoom. But no, it was the initial of this was set up through the University of North Dakota's aerospace, asking for virtual tours. This was right when the pandemic really started. And normally we would host their classes for, this walk around tour. They do an entire airport tour. So we were just one component of that for that day. But I just looked at the stats. We've had over 300 students watch, or 300 people watch the video. So certainly jump onto it. It's an hour long. So way too long for if you're trying to capture somebody's attention really quickly. But we had the teacher be the host of the meeting, and really we had to it was somewhat scripted out, but the teacher was the host, so he could control the view of what camera was kind of pinned to the screen. And then I had different people set up in different areas where we had, I went and interviewed a pilot inside of an airplane for one section, and then 5 minutes later I'm walking to another hangar where we're in our maintenance department. In between that, our president was on his computer just talking kind of through corporate stuff and introducing them to different parts of the company. So that was a more in-depth one, but I'm a huge fan of the GoPros. We purchased a GoPro 360 this past year. Used it multiple times on aircraft. You can, if you check out Fargo Jet Center on YouTube, you'll see a couple of the videos on that. But we're actually using that to do 360 videos. You can put this thing in a maintenance shop or an airplane and bring the student virtually right into your space 360 degrees, so they can look around, see and hear what's going on. And so we're starting to do little clips of, hey, we're taking a jet engine apart and we'll put it in there just for a few minutes, just to give them those little experiences. And the nice part about that is there's not a ton of editing needed to do with it, because the student or whoever drags the view around wherever they want. So you kind of set it in the position you want to start with. And again, GoPro's quick program is easy and super user friendly. So we'll be doing more and more of those as we try to introduce to more and more students. The other angle I would say, but in addition to what you're talking about, Jessica, is we were just approached by our Chamber of Commerce, who is got our own community's workforce development program, and they're going to come in with a professional video team and have offered to shoot any of the different types of careers that we have available throughout our company. And they'll produce the videos free for us to use, but they're going to use them in their own outreach into our community. So kind of using whatever resources available to you, I would recommend connecting with your local Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm so glad to hear that. Thanks for sharing that. Perfect. Well, thank you, Darren, for sharing that video. And I love that you guys are continuing to use the GoPros and making more and more and more content. That's fantastic. And again, Darren, if you're able to stick around as well, if anyone has questions, the Q&A will be open here after our last session. Let's see, as you're taking your notes on capturing your tour and videos, make a note too with a very large asterisk and bold underlines to engage with your membership's GoPros. And keeping engaged with those younger members in your associations is a great way to keep things fresh. For a young person to see someone who looks like them in a role they would like to pursue will encourage them to stick with those interests. Information shared by a peer is a great way to spread messaging of the BizAv opportunities. And sometimes it just takes one conversation. Chances are too that if you yourself are not comfortable speaking on camera or wish to have someone help with or lead this video charge, there are likely people right in your membership who would not only like to help you on this project, but would really thrive at it. How do you reach your YoPros? I'm glad you asked. Sierra Grimes with the NBAA is here to talk about her work as founder of the NBAA YoPros and liaison to the YoPro Council. Sierra, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Good afternoon, everyone. So at this point, I believe everyone on this call is pretty familiar with the YoPro program at NBAA and the council. So many of you, thank you, have been very supportive and work with us on various things. And yes, huge shout out to Ian, who is actually one of our YoPro council representatives who's on the line today. So YoPro is a mechanism that NBAA started. And it's used as a tool to be able to bridge and create relationships between the emerging leaders within the business aviation industry. And as Jessica pointed out, we use the YoPros within our group as an opportunity to continue to develop that pipeline for us. We have an awesome group of people who are eager leaders and doing great things within this industry. And so it's great to put those young faces out there to encourage the students that yes, you can do this and that there's a great opportunity to grow within your career. And here are the examples that they can see. The YoPro program has been around for almost 8, maybe 9 years at this point. We launched our very first networking event in conjunction with NBAA 2014 in Orlando. So the program itself is a big umbrella, and within that umbrella, you have the YoPro Council. Like I said, where Ian and Hunter are represented. It's about 25 people on that council. The unique thing about that council in comparison to the other NBAA committees is that it doesn't just have me as the staff liaison. We have, out of the 25, you have a mix of both the NBAA staff members as well as member representatives. So it's a good opportunity for not only the development of our member companies to put them in leadership positions, but also for the NBAA to invest in their staff as well and give them opportunities outside of their designated job descriptions. Within the council, we have, I believe, 5 working groups. So we have the events and marketing, which Ian leads up as the chair for that group. We have, as Scott mentioned, the advocacy group, where we focus on developing the next generation of that army that we need to have all of our political fights and getting them engaged early. We have the community service group, which sits and partners with the events and marketing group. But we really want to focus on how our industry is always great at giving back. And we always have that philanthropic aspect. So we wanted that to be something that was built into the YoPro program and within the YoPro Council. And then lastly, we have the professional development working group. And that is the group that puts on the educational content at all of our NBAA events, as well as the Emerging Leaders Conference that had. So with the YoPro program, we host networking events. Obviously, most people have seen that. We have a big presence at base, but then with COVID, we actually got really unique, and Hunter found a second job by being the host with the most, basically, for us by hosting virtual happy hours, where we've literally at this point had 60 something odd YoPros just get on for a virtual happy hour. And it's been absolutely amazing. So it's been great to be able to give people that opportunity to still network with their peers and bring in new people while people have been at the stay-at-home orders. We do Healthy Days. We're actually in the middle of one right now. This is National Volunteer Week. And so Healthy Day was a concept that was created a couple years ago. So whenever we are at an NBAA event or have a YoPro presence, we want to partner with some sort of community organization. Whereas when we were at base 2 years ago for Vegas, we partnered with an organization to stuff book bags that would provide meals. So we were able to provide over 500 weekend book bags to students in the Las Vegas area who do not normally, they rely on their food from their school meals that are provided. So we were able to stuff the backpacks with food to sustain them for that weekend. And like I said, it was over 500 that were done at that time. And so we use Healthy Day as a way to continue to do stuff like that. And so for National Volunteer Week, we have a campaign done socially to encourage YoPros to get out into their local community to do some sort of philanthropic thing by giving back, and they're able to post that. For the professional development, I highlighted that we do education sessions. So we had our very first Emerging Leaders Conference last year in Orlando, which took place right after the leadership conference, where we had over 100 YoPros come in and have a full 2 days of content on leadership development and management development. And then we were able to partner with the BMC in March to have educational content for the virtual leadership summit. And then obviously we have the big 40 under 40 with amazing people like Jessica herself are represented. And that's our way to highlight all of those superb rising leaders that we have making a great impact in the industry. And so the latest thing that we have is Hunter and I have been working with a couple of people, and we have local and regional groups that are starting their own YoPro programs within them. So we are really excited about that. And we are using this as an opportunity to pull together resources that we will be able to have on our website and available to the other groups that are doing this as they're interested in starting up their own local and regional groups. They don't necessarily have to feel that they have to wait to tap into the regional reps or myself or someone in the YoPro Council, but they'll be able to have a resource that we're documented as this group is starting up now to be able to get it started on their own. So big congratulations to CFBAA because they launched their very first YoPro program in conjunction with Sun and Fun last week. And I've heard nothing but great things about that. So kudos to you guys. And like it says on the slide, if you have any questions or you're looking to get more information on how we can partner with the local and regional groups, reach out to either your regional representative or myself and someone on the council, and we'd be glad to help you.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Sierra, for all of that information. I'm so excited to see these YoPro groups sprouting up within our local regional teams. This is really, really exciting news. Thank you. That's all I have for this session. Just want to conclude and say that I applaud you all in your efforts for reaching more and more future BizAv colleagues, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. Wow, that was very inspiring. We had all kinds of good ideas, and I'm sure a lot of the other people on local regional groups can come up with some ideas to take advantage of some of the presentations that you just had. So thank you so much for doing that. Next, we have our getting back to normal slide here, local and regional groups. We thought it would be great to visit with a couple of leaders from the CFBAA, Jenny, who you've already met, and also Douglas Young from AZBAA, the Arizona Business Aviation Association. But we'll start with Jenny. As I said before, she's founding member of the CFBAA and board member now, and she's also part of our local and regional group committee. She's going to tell us a little bit about some of the things they've been doing at CFBAA and kind of easing back into the in-person events and what they have planned for the future. Turn it over to you, Jenny.
Thank you so much, Marge. And it's great to be here with you all today. And I want to start out by saying we've seen local and regional groups across the country do all sorts of things this past year, all the way from being very active to not doing much of anything. And I just want to be the first one to say, whatever you chose to do, it's okay, because these were unprecedented times. And CFBAA has managed to be quite an active group over the past year. And I want to say that I feel like a big piece of our success was that we were almost new when the pandemic hit. We started in August of 2019, and it's one of those things where I think we didn't know any better, so it was a little bit easier for us to pivot. We didn't have a year's worth of events that people are used to attending, and so that pivot to virtual events was an easier one for us than for maybe a more established group. How we did do that, just a little backstory. We initially started with a virtual happy hour over Zoom and just got people together because we knew that people wanted to connect. We invited Ed Boland to one of our Zoom happy hours, and thus our speaker series was born. We have started a monthly speaker series in addition to the virtual happy hour, and we have opened this up to anyone who wants to attend. So we don't just keep it for members, we kept it open to anyone, a free event, trying to spread the word and trying to make connections. And as the fall kind of rolled around and our good weather in Florida, which played a big role in us moving quickly, more quickly, I suppose, than some to in-person events, our good weather season was upon us, and our board started to discuss, is it time to try an in-person event? And as you can imagine, those conversations are tough. We had some that were, more ready for it than others. I probably was in the not as ready for it as some category, but we decided that it could make sense to move forward and to do it safely. So of course we had to get a host on board, and we were very lucky that one of our local FBOs, Atlantic Aviation at ORL, was very much on board with this. We knew it needed to be an outdoor event, and their ramp space was crucial. So as you can see, we had our barbecue back on January 15th, and we took advantage of all of their ramp space that they would give us that day to make sure that we had lots of spacing and distancing. We also had to nail down a sponsor for this event. So it was a little challenging to go to a sponsor and to have somebody stick their neck out for us, if you will, in the middle of a pandemic, but we were very lucky that Bombardier decided to do that with us. And so once we had a host on board, once we had a sponsor on board, we started to gain a little bit of momentum. I do want to be very clear that we contacted the city of Orlando. We even had folks from the city of Orlando attending our event, so that we were making sure we were in compliance with local and state restrictions at the time of our event. And the entire goal, our board's entire goal, was to make everyone feel comfortable and everyone feel safe. You can see, and I've got just some, like I said, some pictures from the event. We had cones set up, guiding people to where they needed to be. We had, they're a little hard to see, but on those cones are little round circles for feet to go, and we use those for social distancing. We also had those set up near the food table. We had food being served by the restaurant. We weren't touching food. We didn't want other people touching it. So everything was served by the vendor in that case, with plexiglass set up. We had our registration tables that folks came to. And on that registration table, we did have a sign-in sheet with clean pens. And on our sign-in form, we did have a waiver. We have attorneys on our board, and we did ask them to create a waiver so that when people were signing in, they were also agreeing to the waiver. We had that information up and available too in big print for folks to see. And we also had plenty of masks and hand sanitizer everywhere. So we started the event that way, having folks come in, being very mindful and careful of how they were approaching it. And masks we asked people to wear masks unless they were actively eating or drinking. You'll see here, we've had the big high top round tables that we opted for, and they were spread very far apart. It was a very windy day, so it was a little challenging keeping everything on the tables. But we opted for no chairs, thinking that it would keep people from sitting in small groups and gathering too closely. So you can see that there are some people sharing space, but they were either masked or actively eating and drinking in the process. And again, being outside, everyone felt very comfortable. And here's kind of a broader view of our event. We actually, during the course of our two and a half hour long event, we had food for 140 people, and we ran out. And the comments from everyone were spectacular. As you can imagine, and I know as most of us on here would feel, getting back to an in-person event was a really big deal. It had been a long time since a lot of us had seen one another. There was no handshaking, there were no hugging, there were some elbow bumps periodically, maybe an occasional fist bump. But again, I was maybe a little bit more on the skeptic side of things, and I walked away from the event thinking that it was really fantastic. Of course, I would tell you that I'd be lying if I didn't say that at the 2-week mark after the event, we all didn't go, yay, we were able to do it safely. This was, too, the time frame was just before vaccines were widely available. Here in Florida, we were still vaccinating, I believe, 65 and up. So there were some people there. My parents were there. They had been vaccinated at that point, but vaccinations were just starting to kind of catch up. So certainly moving forward to other events, that will play a role and be a bit different. And then I also wanted to show you this. This was just last Friday. This was, as Sierra was great to mention, we have started a YoPro group here. We have some young professionals that are members, and they have taken it upon themselves to start a YoPro group. And they hosted their first ever event. It was a happy hour hosted at the Coconut Flyers section at the Antique Aircraft at Sun and Fun. And so it was open to anybody that wanted to attend. We've publicized it on social media, but you'll see here there, we had, you know, some signage out. We have some group pictures, folks that were there in attendance, and obviously following Sun and Fun guidelines. Again, blessed with good weather, that is really helpful. And I know many of you spread across the country, we're getting ready to go back indoors and you all are getting ready to come outside. So I think that these events are possible. It is possible to do them safely, and I think that there is a big appetite for that. But that said, moving forward, we have decided so far as a group that we are going to continue to likely host board meetings virtually, or at least have a virtual option for those that aren't immediately in our area. We cover a wide territory here. So we will continue to do board meetings with a virtual option. We will also be doing our speaker series, but probably dropping it back to quarterly and keeping that virtual. Happy hours will continue as well. But our goal is to move back to more in-person events. Our next one isn't until September at Embry-Riddle because, again, our weather is going to be going downhill. Well, many of you will be going uphill. So that is how CFBAA successfully made our transition back to in-person events and how we plan to move forward.
That's great, Jenny. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And it's so great that, like you said, you guys were so new when the pandemic hit that you were able to just kind of roll with it and not necessarily stick to a predetermined schedule or anything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're actually having to move forward now, trying to determine what that schedule is going to look like as we kind of try the hybrid approach moving forward.
Right, right. Well, good luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to hear from Douglas Young. He works at Pinnacle Aviation in aircraft sales and acquisitions. He is also president of the Arizona Business Aviation Association and was previously vice president and scholarship committee chair. He is a graduate of the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott. And I'm going to let him tell you about what they're doing in Arizona. And they have been very active there.
Awesome. Thanks, Marge. And thanks everybody for having us today, or having me to speak on behalf of kind of what we've been doing. We're super excited. I will say, you know, we are beginning to start in-person events again, but to kind of touch base on what we did in the past, like we were talking about yesterday on our call with everybody too, is, you know, here in Arizona, when you tell people they got to stay inside for the best 8 months out of the year, let me tell you, it just doesn't happen too well. So we did, when the pandemic hit, obviously, we did switch over to virtual events. Unlike the CFBA, we've been around for, I think, 20 years now, and our members are used to in-person events. And in-person events have been a big part of our success over the years because it's a great opportunity, as you know, for everybody to get together. So when we kind of had to go to virtual, it was a learning curve for everybody, including myself. You know, I can say at the start of this, I was no Zoom expert, but now I can tell you how to use it. I know it like the back of my hand. So, but during the pandemic, though, we did do a few in-person events. It was a little different. There was a little, you know, we kind of slow walked it to get to the decision to do it. We had done probably about six virtual meetings total. And after about a couple of them, or 2 or 3 of them, we had people saying, hey, you know, when can we do in person? When can we do in person? And that was around the September, October timeframe. We were obviously closely monitoring the situation. I myself am a big fan of in-person events. You know, I can see everybody here. You know, we have 38 people here, and I wish I could meet every one of you face to face and shake your hand. Just the interaction's a lot better, but we managed to make it happen. So at the end of our virtual meetings, what we did is we would send out a survey. And the survey was based on, one, how the virtual meeting went, and two, how comfortable you are to doing, and coming back to in-person events. As we saw the number grow from the survey of people wanting to come back to in-person events, the board all got together. We said, okay, here we have enough people where we feel that we could do an in-person event now. Let's go about and see what we need to do it. My biggest thing is, if we're doing an in-person event, obviously we're taking every precaution possible. We're doing everything we need to do to make everybody feel safe and comfortable, because I don't want people to show up and not feel comfortable about being there. And the vaccine obviously was just beginning to roll out around that time frame. So we kind of saw a few people become more comfortable with it. But so anyway, so the precautions we took, we did an event in November, was our first actual in-person meeting we hosted again. We did it in conjunction with the U.S. Aircraft Expo, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Brian Mackin hosts around the country. It's a great kind of small expo they hold. And I said, all right, this is a good time to do this and piggyback off this event. So we partnered up with them. We got a sponsor for our event too. It was Aviation Tax Consultants. Daniel Chung was nice enough to be the sponsor for that event. And we held it in a hangar, but that hangar was also opened up, and you'll see that in the next photo here. But I want to talk about, what we did here. First thing was, obviously we went about with permits and everything else. I said, let's figure out what the city of Scottsdale wants. Let's figure out what the fire department wants, in the whole 9 yards. We got all that done. And actually when we got closer to our event, they lifted the restrictions for certain permits. And we went ahead and still applied for those permits just to have them in place. Again, we want people to feel as comfortable as possible when they were there. So we got all the required permits. The other thing we did was this nice little color system you see on your screen there. I'm not going to take the credit for this. I saw it on LinkedIn and I thought it was a good idea. So, it's kind of cheesy what it is, but it worked out great. And we got a lot of good feedback from it. You can see there's a lot of green dots there still. Yellow dots were a lot taken, and red dots, there's all there still. But essentially what it was is, green dots were, if you had a green dot on your name tag, you were comfortable with interacting with people up, within 6 feet, and your handshakes or elbow bumps, whatever it was, but you were comfortable to be around people was the thing. Yellow dot, you can see, was no physical contact. So just, hey, how are you? 6 feet, great to see you type thing. And red dot, hey, I just want to keep my distance from everybody, just kind of, I want to be, here and not so much be bothered, but, just be away. So the dot system worked out great. We got a lot of good feedback from it. We actually carried on doing it at our following event we did in December, which was our holiday. I'm not going to call it a party, but more so like a happy hour get together. And I think we're going to continue to do it moving forward as we go back to in-person events. So the dot system is a great way to go about it for those wanting to get back in-person events. Super easy, super cheap to do it. I mean, and I'm happy to share with the posters we made with anybody who might want them. The other thing we did is, you'll see in the picture there, is we spaced everybody 6 feet apart. I think this event we had about 50 people, so we had a good turnout. Again, making everybody feel as comfortable as possible. We did have hand sanitization stations around, and then we also had, masks had to be were required when you're up and walking around. When you're sitting down, you could take it off. The other thing we changed around was, everybody got so used to being on their phone and having things on their phone during the pandemic. We went away from paper agendas and people and us handing them out. So we uploaded the event agenda on our website, and people were able to go on the website and basically follow along with what we were talking about on their phones. So that was it was a great system. It worked out awesome. As we go back to in-person events now, starting next month, we're going to continue to do this moving forward. Again, it's just more people are getting the vaccine, more people in Arizona are willing to come out. Arizona is one, we're fully open out here now. Unfortunately, like some of the states right now where you're just now kind of getting opened up. We've been open for a while, and we saw that influx of travelers coming here too. So we're excited to get back to in-person events. I like to call it, it's like we're getting the band back together, everybody's back, baby. And so we're super stoked for it. Next month, it will be in a hangar again. Again, it's just the biggest thing for us was, in my thing moving forward, is if we're going to do these in-person events, I want everybody to be as comfortable as possible. We do have our annual golf benefit at the end of the month. And the night before the golf benefit is a sponsor reception. The sponsor reception, normally we would host, if some of you have been to Scottsdale Airport, we recently built a new terminal out here that's beautiful. And there's 2 giant rooms that overlook the runway. So normally we would do that and have our sponsor reception there, and it holds, oh geez, I think it's like over 200 people, but it's plenty of, space. But again, it's a little confined. And as much as I want to do there, I said, look, I think we should still opt to do something bigger. So, and go just have the extra space if we need it. We want to we don't want people to come in to this room and feel like it's crammed. I think everybody's gonna have a different take now on the size of a room in a group of people in the room now from here on out. So we're doing it at the new Jet Aviation FBO over here. They've been gracious enough to sponsor the reception for our golf tournament. So we're going to do it in their brand new hangar there. We're going to have catering, the whole 9 yards. Again, it's just more so, it's not the fact that it's this nice, brand new, beautiful hangar, which, is just an added bonus, but it's getting people there and making them feel comfortable. The golf tournament, it's golf. I guess I saw something the other day, and I don't know how much this is true, but there were no COVID cases reported from a golf course during the pandemic because everybody's so spread out. So the golf tournament, we're doing what we can there. Everybody's gonna be 6 feet apart on a golf course. I mean, I don't think you've ever seen a group of 10 or more converging on a golf course. So, but we do have, tables and chairs out there, and, hand sanitization stations and the whole 9 yards there too. But again, it's just, we're taking all the precautions to make everybody feel as comfortable as they can moving forward. I think we will continue to host the kind of virtual events, depending what it was. I liked virtual events because we have people from around the country, as obviously we have here today. And it's been a learning curve for everybody. And I think everybody's a lot more open to it now. We will try to do hybrid events. We're still trying to figure out that system. So if somebody's done one before, please give me your tips and secrets, because we can't, doing Zoom and a hybrid and the camera across the room, it just doesn't seem to work. But so we're excited to get back to it. Arizona, like I said, it's just tough when you tell people to stay inside, from October to April. I mean, nobody wants to do it. You can't. It's just, I think today's supposed to be 88 outside, and for some that might be warm, but for us, man, it's like we're ready to go to the beach if it was out here. So, we did, like I said, we also did a holiday happy hour. Again, the biggest thing was we kept the tables distance apart. We had 3 people to a table. We did have a catering there and a bartender there and whatnot. So we had them serving for us, just keeping the contact minimal. So, but as we get back to it, I definitely recommend for those who are trying to adapt and figure out how they can host these events and make them feel comfortable. The biggest thing is just ask your local governments and whatnot, what you need permit wise, and just get it. I mean, if they don't require it, just get it. I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry. Like I said, my thing was I didn't want to be known as the local and regional group that gave all my members COVID. So we made sure we had it all in place. And again, this DOT system, it might be silly, but it works. People like it. It's kind of different. It's fun, and it's super easy to do. I mean, it's different. So, and try and use as big a space you possibly can. Like I said, people are gonna have a different view now on the size of a room and the amount of people in a room. So we're going to continue to really spread people out. Masks are optional as people get more and more vaccinated out here. I noticed, nobody really wants to wear their mask as much, but again, we're going to do everything we can do to keep our members safe, keep everybody excited to come out, and you want them to come out. I mean, everybody I think is itching to get back to in-person stuff. I know NBAA base this year, talking to Phil Durner, I think is going to be a pretty big turnout just for everybody wanting to come out. So, but I'm always happy to answer any questions you guys might have. If you guys want any advice or anything like that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I mean, I'm excited about this. I'm excited to get back to in person. Jenny, you guys did a great job at your first event like that. So I'm going to steal some of your ideas too. you know, and moving forward. But you
Great.
know, really encourage it, guys. And it, you know, I think we're at the end of this, or I hope we're at close to the end of it. So, but again, any questions, don't hesitate, let me know. And I appreciate you guys letting us AZBA be on this today, kind of share our experiences too. So thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. That was
Yeah.
great. Very good. Very good. Good ideas. Like you said, the DOT system seems like very simple and keep everybody comfortable. You know, everybody's kind of different levels of comfortable being, you know, with other people now, but just to keep working at that, I think is the key. So good deal. All right, now we're down to the questions, but I think we did do a lot of question and answer as we went, which was good. Saved us a little time. I think we're running a little later than we thought we would. Any other questions that you see, Jenny, or anyone on the, I don't see anything else here. Just type them in the chat function if you have them. Obviously, you can contact me for anything. Steve Hadley as well, our leader as far as our committee goes. Thank you, Steve, for helping us out. We are looking for new committee members. If you're interested, let me know. That would be great. We have, you know, life happens and some people need to peel off of the committee. So we periodically need to regenerate that. So let us know if you're interested in contributing. We meet once a month and on obviously virtually, and then do a couple events a year. I think we've done a few more virtually than we planned on, but that's okay. I think we'll probably integrate all this in the coming months, having kind of a combination of live and online. Any other questions? All right. Well, I think, are we going to give them maybe 10 minutes back of your day? Jessica, anything else? No? Jenny?
Nothing for me, nothing that I've seen, but this is fantastic. Thanks everybody for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
See
Steve,
faces and names that we don't get to see quite often enough.
yeah, exactly. And Steve, you want to make any closing remarks for us?
Just thanks, everyone. We appreciate the collaboration of the committee with the groups, and certainly sharing of best practices with among different experiences from the different regional groups that are all autonomous groups has been the biggest value of this committee. And so we sincerely appreciate it, and we look forward to more of that in the future. And thanks to all the participants and to the speakers. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve. Yep, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you all live in person at base, for sure. Thanks all. And this will be recorded if you guys missed anything and want to go back and listen. So talk to you later. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.